Ready, man. You start up.
Alright, apparently we are live. That's exciting. So, welcome to the first ever All Access Fitness Lecture Seminar Series. So, we're calling today Nutrition 101. As we are All Access Fitness Academy, we're going to start trying to do some of these lecture seminar series, trying to work on spreading a little more information, a little more knowledge, so that there's a lot more that we can all as a community, and both as the people here in the gym and as the community we reach out to, kind of just reach all of our goals in a better way and do things with more knowledge and better application. So today we are focused on nutrition, and at the base of nutrition is the calorie. Nutrition overall is what our food does in our bodies, what our food contains, right? So what we put in our bodies, how it reacts, how our bodies react to it, and that has a multitude of things that all kind of go into what happens in the body, right? Calories, okay? Calories are the measurement of units of energy that the body is able to utilize to perform work. Alright? Who wants to say that for me again? Who wants to repeat it? Anyone? You. Calories are the unit of energy that the body produces. Well, so, and calories are actually a measure of heat expenditure, but it's when your body burns energy, that's how we measure it. So it's what your body is able to use to do work, right? So, that work includes a number of things though. It's not just, going to your job and lifting boxes or piling crates or training clients. That work includes digesting your food. It includes repairing joints that may have been damaged from a bad fall. It includes repairing blood vessels and arteries that may have calcification from years of bad diet. All of these things that your body needs to do on a daily basis require nutrition, require calories, require energy to complete that function. Does that make sense? Right? If we don't put something in our bodies to therefore do these jobs, do this work, there's nothing for our body to utilize as energy to then do that. So, like I said, the very base unit of measurement of that energy is the calorie. Now, little side note here, this isn't something that is going to make or break your results, it's not something that's going to make a huge difference to you, but interesting little fact is that technically what we all think of as a calorie is actually a kilocalorie. Actually 1/1000th of a calorie. So when you have your kilocalorie versus your actual calorie of 1,000 calories. But anyway, what we look at as a calorie, just consider that a calorie. We'll keep it simple. So calories, like we said, are the energy that we get from food. Everyone with me so far? Now our foods contain all different sorts of nutrients, okay? Now nutrients are compounds that are on Earth overall, or just compounds in general, that our body is able to utilize in some way. And we have both micronutrients, which are nutrients that our body needs in small amounts, right? So micronutrients are things like minerals, things that we get from, again, foods, but things that are in the soil that plants absorb in, and we usually use them in the milligram amounts. So those are tiny, tiny amounts of these micronutrients that our body needs on a daily basis. We still need those things though, and that's why having a good balanced diet with a lot of different foods is very important. You're getting those micronutrients in. Now, that's something we're going to go more into on a later date, in a later talk. Micronutrition is very important, but we're focused on the energy today. We're focused on the calorie, and therefore we're focused on the macronutrients. So macronutrients, as opposed to our micronutrients, macronutrients are the components of food that contain calories. Right? So say that with me. Ready? Macronutrients are the components of food that contain calories. One more time. Macronutrients are the components of food that contain calories. Perfect. So where do we get our energy from food? From our macronutrients, from our calories, right? So, people around the world have all different styles of dieting, right? All different styles of how to make up what we're taking in throughout the day, how to put together different food sources to feed our body what it needs. And somehow, some way, people from all around the world use all different food sources, and our body still is able to utilize it, and still able to create energy, and still able to do work, and still able to repair and function, and so on. So how is that possible? If there's all different foods around the world, right? All different nutrition in these foods, and we know that. You have different labels on everything, right? The nutrition label, the facts on the back that we never look at. Just kidding. So the nutrition labels, you can see foods are different. And we know that just looking at them, tasting them, smelling them, foods are very different. So how is it that our body still gets energy in a similar way from a lot of different foods? It's because they're still made up of a lot of the same stuff at the molecular level, right? So whether you are around the world in Japan feeding off of rice and fish for your diet for the most part, as they have for hundreds of thousands of years, or tribes in Antarctica that live off of seal blubber and whale fat, right? Completely different diets, but somehow still both are able to sustain the body, both are able to survive. I don't recommend living off just seal blubber and whale fat. Have a more balanced diet than that. But our bodies are able to utilize these macronutrients for energy regardless of the specifics, right? That doesn't mean that the breakdown of them is not important though, and if we are going for more specific results than just staying alive, then we should look a little bit deeper. Does that make sense? You guys with me? Awesome. So, we have 3 macronutrients. 1, 2, 3. Those 3 macronutrients are protein, carbohydrates, and fats. Okay? So, one more time, let's say it with me. 3 macronutrients, which are proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Excellent, there we go. We got some good energy going. So, proteins being our first of our macronutrients we're going to talk about here. And we're going to talk about the difference between those in a moment. The first one is our proteins, okay? Now, proteins are chains of amino acids used to make up the structural components of the body tissues, such as hair, skin, your organs, muscles, right? It's all made of proteins. They're also used to make up enzymes and antibodies within our bodies. Proteins also make up hormones, a number of different things. So proteins are used in a number of different ways in the body. Now, with that being said, what does everyone think about when they think about protein? Give me someone shout out an answer. Meat? Awesome. So down here we have James said meat. That's what we think of when we think of protein. That's excellent answer, because meat is a very, very good source of protein. It's a high protein food, right? Why do we think that is? Why is meat high in protein? Iron. So iron actually, it's interesting. Iron's a micronutrient, but you're actually on a cool path there. Iron carries the oxygen to different parts of the body. Which parts of the body need our oxygen? When we're working out and stuff? Muscles, right? So you see where I'm going here? So protein is very high in meat, because most of the meats that we eat are muscle tissue. So when you're having a chicken breast, that's the pectoral muscle of a chicken, right? That's this right here, off of the little squeaker chicken. I don't know why I name a chicken squeaker, but I would. So, yeah, totally great chicken. Yeah, I love it. So, meat is an excellent example of a high protein food, because meat is muscles from animals, right? Or from humans. It's tasty.
I believe they call it long pig.
What is it?
Human, they call it long pig.
Long pig, yes. So, a different pork flavor, I would imagine. So, I shouldn't talk about cannibalism on our protein sources. Who can give me another one? What else? So we were talking about, what do we think about when we first talk about protein? So when I say protein, what do you guys over here think about?
Meat.
We got meat already. Still meat? Vegetables do have some protein to them. That's actually
have a lot of protein.
Chickpeas, absolutely great source of protein. So you get beans, legumes are a really great one. Absolutely, great one, Frank. So Protein is found in vegetables indeed. You are going to get some protein there. Fiber is also in the vegetables in high amounts. So now a lot of times when you say protein, people jump right to like a protein powder. You know, they think, oh, protein, nah, I'm not into those shakes, right? Well, protein is in everyone's body, it's in all these foods. And so the great news is that we seem to already be understanding of that. So protein goes far, far deeper than just the shakes. It's one thing that I want to make sure we get across here. So we have meats so far. What do we got for another high protein food? Fish. Beautiful. One of the most clean sources of protein that you're going to be able to get. Clean, when you're referring to protein sources, you're talking about not having other macronutrients coming in. So you can get really good lean fish with high protein quality. What else we got?
Nuts.
Nuts, excellent.
Like the other side, I think of cultured or fermented foods, so like tempehs and stuff that increase the nutrition.
And excellent. Tempeh. And tempeh is fermented, what kind of bean is it?
Soybeans, but you
Fermented
can, they've got all
soybeans.
sorts of different fermented beans
Yeah.
now.
So yeah, all sorts of different fermented beans, a great way to go. What's the new one? The fava beans, I think I've seen
Fava.
around. So yeah, there are some really good sources of vegan and vegetarian proteins out there. So those people or clients of mine who don't eat meat, we still have plenty of ways to get protein into the body, right? One more.
If you were vegan, if you were a vegetarian, could you eat eggs?
So vegetarians, great question.
I'm just curious.
A lot of vegetarians will still eat eggs. They usually refer themselves as ovo-vegetarians. Ovo refers to the egg. Or a pesca-vegetarian will eat fish still, for instance. True vegetarians generally would not eat eggs, and if someone's vegan, they generally would not eat eggs. Now, of course, when it comes down to it, that's everyone's personal preference and their choice. There's no law to abide by, although some vegans would say otherwise.
Oh, yeah, no, I have a steak. I have a steak, you know.
There we go. That's what I think too. All right, so let's go. One more protein source. Anybody? Oh.
Dairies, but I also think of gluten.
Ooh, that is very
It's like
interesting.
70%
Wow.
protein by weight, I think.
Gluten is
Yeah.
wheat protein. Yeah. One that I cannot eat personally. So very good one. Awesome. I'm gonna put that over here because I gotta keep it away from me. Oops, gluten. Don't worry, everybody. I swear I can spell. I learned that in second grade. I went 5 times. What was it? Dairy and yogurt, we said. So dairy. So, and it actually kind of funny. A lot of times, for one reason or another, dairy, people include eggs in with dairy. Eggs are not a dairy source, so they come from chicken, they're not coming from milk at all. But a lot of times people will include eggs and dairy as something that they will still have if they're vegetarian. So they tend to get kind of tossed in. It's an important thing to point out, I've found though, because that confusion can sometimes have someone who thinks they can't have dairy or who may not be able to have dairy from lactose intolerance or a protein allergy of some kind, thinking they can't have eggs, and that's not going to be the case most of the time, unless you have an allergy to both. So I'm just gonna gluten. So we've got meats, fish, nuts, tempeh, or fermented foods. And there are lots of choices there. Dairy, eggs, and gluten. So, as I was saying before, gluten is a very interesting one to look at because, especially as of late, a lot of kind of hype and controversy has come around gluten. So gluten is the protein that's found in wheat products. So wheat grain, when most people are making bread from their wheat flour, it contains a specific protein there called gluten. And a lot of people don't have enough of the glutenase enzyme in their body to break gluten down effectively. So because of that, and different levels of other enzymes in the bodies to affect this, due to that, and sometimes also just due to an allergy to the protein itself, people can have very severe effects from eating gluten. myself personally, over time and changing my diet around in different ways, I've developed a bit of an insensitivity to gluten, so I will just get a little like indigestion, kind of gassiness, bloating, things like that. It's just, it doesn't digest as clean or as well as other foods for me, meaning I get more gas output, I get more upset feelings in my stomach, cramping, things of that nature. Now, if somebody has celiac, you guys know what celiac is? Celiac is a very severe allergy to the gluten protein, or intolerant to the gluten protein, and that can be extreme.
It goes into anaphylactic shock. And
Yes,
that
absolutely.
stuff.
Yeah, you can go all in
Second.
shock, exactly. Very serious.
Just had a really quick question on that, because that I honestly did not know that gluten was 70% protein by weight. So like even in the rices, grains, all that, is the protein strictly derived from gluten? Like it doesn't contain protein other than that?
Not in rices in particular. So there are different proteins that you're going to find in rice. So rice protein actually is utilized by a lot of vegans and by a lot of people who aren't taking dairy, things like that. So there are other proteins still in there, but there is absolutely gluten in a few different grains. The main one being wheat, and I wish I had them off the top of my head right now. Barley, I believe, is another one.
Any type of grain, right? I mean, there's a lot of different rice, any type of grain.
So not any type of grain though. So rice actually is generally going to be gluten-free, but there is glutinous rice, and glutinous rice is used in some different things. I recently was in the store and happened to be looking, as I usually do, at the back of the boxes, and I just read all the nutrition facts. I spent about 3 hours there. So I'm a nerd. So I was reading the back of some of these they weren't gluten free, and I was looking. I didn't see gluten free listed anywhere, and there were the little mochi, little ice cream. Yes,
So that's the only thing I know of with gluten.
there we go, with the glutinous rice. So it's so funny that you had that. So mochi, it's a Japanese Asian dessert. They have kind of this weird chewy layer to the outside of it, and usually like a fruity or chocolatey or vanilla kind of inside to it. And it's just this interesting kind of creamy thing, but the outside's got a chewiness to it, right? And it's actually a rice flour that they make into this, kind of dough. Yeah, a little dough, and they, mold it around this thing. Anyway, but it's made with glutinous rice. So glutinous meaning containing gluten. The gluten is what makes it so sticky and it makes it that chewy consistency.
Yeah, I've heard people speak about it as a way to attach to gluten in baking.
So yes, gluten.
Sugar like coating, and then they stick things on a wedding cake.
There you go. Yeah. So gluten it has a very, very good binding quality. So a lot of times those people who are gluten free have probably dealt with this. When you get gluten free bread, you get gluten free pasta or whatever, it falls apart. Especially if it's not a company that's been at it for a while, perfected their methods, or if it doesn't have xanthan gum or some of the other vegetable gums added in there to hold it together. Gluten in normal breads will hold that bread right. You get that nice chewiness. You can sink your teeth in regular bread.
Warm with butter all over.
Right. So we're getting the carbs in a second. Now, gluten is what lets that bread really stick together like that. So when you have a non-gluten based flour, rice flour, almond flour, things like that, that doesn't have the gluten in there, a lot of times you'll have to add like guar gum, xanthan gum, some kind of a binding agent to kind of add that in. So very, very good questions and great comments, guys. This is great. I'm loving this. All right, so feeling pretty good on proteins? Excellent, excellent. And so like we said, just points out again, these make up the structural components of the body, right? Our muscle tissue, our connective tissues. So when we are exercising, when we're trying to recover, we're trying to rebuild our muscle tissue, we're trying to rebuild our bodies, we're trying to rebuild these structural components, protein has an important place there. But remember, it has an important place, it's not the only important factor. Let's move on to another one of the important factors, our next macronutrient, carbohydrates. Carbohydrates get a bad rap a lot of the time, right? Everyone says you gotta go carb free if you wanna lose weight, or you gotta go keto, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, you gotta go Atkins. Carbs are the most efficient energy source the body has. So if you want energy for your workout, if you want to, expel energy and do work, if you have something big to do and your body needs to exert force or expel energy to do it, carbohydrates are the body's preferred energy source. So, what are they? Carbohydrates are organic compounds grouped into sugars, starches, and cellulose, which is fiber, typically broken down to release energy. So, what kinds of foods are carbs?
Chips and dip at night, carbo loading for the next day.
Frank gets me hungry with this. So chips is a great one.
So anything mass produced, anything, what is it?
Like the processed type of
Processed,
foods.
anything processed, just about anything processed.
So what I'm gonna say there though, let's take that statement, let's
Well,
shift a little.
Yeah, I can agree with
Not
that,
quite
that's a rash
anything
statement.
processed, because so look at peanut butter for instance. You can have processed peanut butter, but that's actually more fat than carbohydrate. But processing, we do see in a lot of our white breads, white pastas, things like that, and that processing that you're referring to, Frank, is when they actually process the wheat itself and they actually remove the germ from which is the fiber and the good nutrients, right? So they basically take this little wheat bowl, they take the good stuff out of it, and they leave just that starchy, sweet stuff.
And that's what you get.
And that's that processing, exactly.
Yeah.
So the endosperm is actually what the that sweet portion is called, and that's just the carbohydrate, starchy part.
Is that technically bleaching?
No, not quite, but very good question. So bleaching is actually, it's literally bleaching. It's removing the color from all of it. The process prior to bleaching is when they're actually removing the germ, the endosperm, or the germ, the fibers, the micronutrients in there, and they're leaving just like the bulb of it, pretty much. But then they take that and bleach all the color out of it because it's still brown, tan, and they want nice white bread. Crazy. So that's a great one though. So breads, we'll go with that for that. We're going there. What else we got?
More wheats and pastas. I feel like that kind of falls under breads too.
Yeah, pasta.
Oh, yeah, pastas are huge.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'll be good.
Spaghettis.
Give them more breads. Pizzas. Yeah.
Just keep on going.
Bread.
So how about rice?
Sugar.
Rice is a great one. Oh, sugar. I'm gonna pop that right in here.
Now, do all carbohydrates get turned into sugar?
Boom. I love that question. Hold on 1 second. Because I want to repeat that. You said it one more time?
Do all carbohydrates turn into sugars?
The question is, do all carbohydrates turn into sugar? Excellent question. And the answer is going to be almost. Almost all carbohydrates are going to turn into sugar in the body, believe it or not. Now I know that as fitness professionals, we're always preaching, try to eat low sugar, keep sugars low, or diabetes, all this crazy stuff that we make up and tell you guys. It's very, very true. Keep sugar very low in your diet. When you're taking sugar in its raw form, in its pure form, and also, by the way, yes, it's a little better to get more natural sugars. It's a little better to get raw cane sugar versus like the more processed sugar. But when I say it's a little better, I mean a little. It's still not good. So try to avoid the sugars if you can. Sugars are generally not going to be a positive thing for the body because a lot of inflammation, right? So to answer your question though, most carbohydrates are indeed broken down into sugar in the body. Now the reasoning for this is that our body needs to burn these macronutrients as energy, right? Or needs to utilize, we'll say, these macronutrients as energy, right? Now, our cells in our body, when they need to utilize energy, when they need energy, we have very specific forms that we can use that energy in, right? So think about it like if you have a car, and if you have a car that has a really specific type of engine, right? A real nice sports performance car. Now, unfortunately, I know nothing about cars. I'm not that kind of man. But someone who does can probably tell you what kind of engine needs high performance fuel. Whatever that kind of engine is, that's that kind of fuel. Making sense? We need to be focused on the type of fuel that you're putting in your body and how it's then broken down, how it's burned, right? So our car engines, our bodies, are always going to burn carbs. And that form that they're going to burn them in is sugars, right? At the end of the process, when we finally get down to the cellular level, it is indeed still broken down into sugars. So the reason I said almost is this one word right here. Cellulose. You guys know what that is? Fiber. I got smart people in here. I have really smart people. There are really smart people at all access fitness events. Come here. Very, very good. So cellulose is plant fiber, right? Now fiber, you guys might know, Fiber One cereal or like the bars they have and stuff. By the way, don't eat an entire box of Fiber One bars in one sitting. It makes for a terrible afternoon. So, fiber is actually partially indigestible. So what happens with fiber, you have soluble fiber and you have insoluble fiber. So soluble fibers versus insoluble fibers. The two different types of fibers, you're going to take them in, and a lot of foods contain both soluble and insoluble. Now you have some of that fiber is going to actually stay in your digestive tract and never actually absorb into your bloodstream, into your body, right? Whereas most foods, when we are digesting them, the idea is to get nutrients from those foods into the bloodstream, right? So our organs can use them, so our muscles can use them. One way we need to get them to the muscles or to where they need to go, so we need to absorb them out of the intestines, out of the stomach, into the bloodstream. Fiber, on the other hand, specifically the fiber that stays in the digestive tract, is going to stay in the digestive tract, in the intestine, and it actually helps to kind of clean out your digestion. So if you've ever noticed, if you've been a little backed up, constipation can be an issue. If you increase your fiber intake a little and you increase your water intake, fiber will actually stay in your digestive tract. It will draw a little bit more water into your digestive tract as well. Magnesium, one of the micronutrients, is the same thing, and that will help to relieve that problem. Now, interestingly too though, fiber can actually be broken down by the probiotics in the gut. And at that point, it actually does let off calories, but in a different form. That is definitely something for another lecture, but excellent question. So, the big answer, sorry to go off on a little rabbit hole there, but most carbohydrates are indeed broken down at the end into sugar, so our bodies can utilize them as energy, right? So at the cellular level, our bodies need something called glycogen. Have you guys heard that term before, glycogen? So glycogen, and particularly you're going to hear about muscle glycogen if you're working out, is the energy stores in your muscle cells. And those energy stores are carbohydrates. And our bodies don't store complex carbohydrates. Complex carbohydrates are the good whole grains you hear about, right? Complex carbohydrates are starches that have long chains of glucose. Now glucose all on the chain makes up a starch, makes up a complex carbohydrate. We with it so far? When we take that into the body, it gets broken down and chopped up into all these little glucoses. Now, do you guys know what glucose is? Glucose is sugar. So, once again, finding the full answer to that question, that's what happens with most carbohydrates. You take it in as a complex carbohydrate, or you take it in as a sugar, and if it is a sugar already, it'll stay as a sugar. Sometimes it needs to be converted into a slightly different sugar form. But the complex carbohydrates you take in, so even those good multi-grain whole grains, they are indeed generally going to be broken down at the end into glycogen, onto glucose and glycogen, and then utilized by the cells as sugar. Great question.
That was a
Yes.
A1C, AC1. When they take the, your blood, they can take your sugar.
Yes.
But when they do it in the hospital, they take the one, you fast, and you go in there and they can tell how long it's going to be, and that's the difference between glucose and sugar. It's just for the diabetic.
Yes, exactly. Yep, so what Frank is referring to is your A1C is a measure of, so when you go to the hospital and
Right,
they're
so
drawing your
when
blood,
that's
they're
out of
checking for-
whack because you've been eating a lot of sugar, even if the sugar test doesn't prove high,
They'll
The
see
other
it.
was gonna see high, it's just,
Absolutely.
like, just to follow what you said, it's exactly what you,
Well, thank you.
I'm
thank you.
sorry.
No, not at
No,
all.
this
No,
is
that was
great.
perfect.
I'm
That
learning.
means- That's exactly what we're talking about. I love it.
hey,
Absolutely.
every ailment he's talking about, I have, so.
That's what we're here to fix, right?
No.
So how come when you eat like a lot of actual sugar, processed sugar at once, you experience a crash like pretty quickly compared to if you eat complex carbohydrates? Like, because they're all breaking down into sugar. Is it because the sugar's already broken down and just processed quicker?
Precisely.
Okay.
Yep, it's all about the time. It's all about how long it takes your blood sugar to rise. And actually, that's what Frank was just
Yeah,
kind of
that's
mentioning too.
Yeah.
So the question was, why is it that after eating a bunch of sugar, you know, and we all know if you eat like a couple big pieces of cake or something like that, like you're gonna have that, oh man, like a little rush kind of, and then you're just wiped, like, you know, barely. I know for me personally, but you barely keep your eyes open, you know. And so what you're experiencing there, and sometimes, by the way, some people won't experience that. And that's if their insulin sensitivity is really right where they need it to be, they can take in a ton of that and then just feel great. You know, the insulin will actually shuttle it right into the muscle cells and then just pump right up. And that's actually bodybuilders, we all try to kind of do that right before a show. We try to weigh in and then get a lot of simple carbohydrates in, get some water in, get some sodium in, and it shuttles all that right into the muscle cells because our insulin sensitivity is so high at that point from being so depleted. Versus if someone eats a lot of sugar on a regular basis, they have, I'm going way off track here, but I'm just gonna finish this up. Getting reeled in. So if you're somebody who has a lot of sugar on a regular basis though, you know, unhealthy eating habits generally, then or if you have a genetic disposition, what will happen is that blood sugar is gonna rise right up real quickly, and then you're gonna release insulin, or if your body is not releasing insulin anymore, either though you're gonna release insulin, your body won't respond to it, which means your blood sugar stays high, and then your body's trying to deal with the insulin release. Or your body won't be releasing the insulin because it's been so maladjusted to these high blood glucose levels over time. So it's so used to it. So that was the point. You know, it doesn't even let the insulin out. And then you run into real big problems because that sugar circulating through your bloodstream is binding things.
You shut your liver
You know,
down
just-
and all.
yeah, everything that's filtering the sugars out, just grinding through and causing inflammation everywhere. It's when you look at it at the like in the cellular level of the body, it's sugar is just the enemy. Which is really ironic though that we break it all down to sugar. So, but it's still like if you take it in as a complex, that little bit of time it takes for your body to break it down makes a big difference. All right, you gotta keep it moving a little bit, just so I don't have you guys here all night.
No, that was all really good though. That was awesome.
Thank you, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, so pretty good on carbs here. So the third and final macronutrient, fats.
So fats are the greasy, oily stuff, right? We
So
all
I
know
cook
the
everything in.
Good stuff.
The good stuff, exactly. So
Fats in animals or in humans is adipose tissue, right? So when I say the greasy, oily stuff, think about that steak you have at home, right, Frank?
Oh,
Look at
yes.
that marbling you got in there, that nice white stuff that gives it all the flavor.
Nice porterhouse.
That's that. Porterhouse. Ooh, good cut, good cut.
the adipose tissue. So adipose refers to fat storage. Adipose tissue is fat storage. So when you have fat in the body, that's how it's stored, right? Fats are organic oils and fatty acid-based organic compounds in plants, right? Now, fats exist in both plant-based and animal-based products, but they're a little different in each of those, right? So what I want to do here, just like we've been doing a couple of things, and one other thing about fats too, they're insoluble in water, so think about waxes, oils, how they always repel water. That's another thing you're going to notice about any fatty acids. They do not, they're hydrophobic, so you have a repulsion to the water molecules.
No, I'm
Good, awesome, awesome. So, how about some examples of fat sources of foods?
Avocado.
Avocado, one of my favorites. I love it.
I go through like 5 a day.
Avocado.
I would be rather fatsy if I was without avocados. It's a lot of calories. And we're going to touch on that in a moment.
Let's go around the room.
Nuts.
Nuts, excellent. And now we're gonna let's take a second on that. We already had that in another list, right? Nuts we had as a protein source as well. What's the deal? Well, of course, foods can contain more than one macronutrient. And actually nuts, for instance, and avocado contain all three, right? Protein, carbohydrates, and fats. So we'll touch on that a little more in a moment, but let's keep working around. Next fat.
I was gonna say peanut butter, or like.
Peanut butter, I love it. So we'll say nut butters. Because we have peanut butter, almond butter, cashew butter. These are all.
Having the nuts as turned into nut butter, does it make it easier to get the fat if it's already like squished or anything? Do you know what I mean?
Very interesting question. And you know what? There's some controversial research there, to be honest. And to be completely straightforward with you, I haven't read into it as recently to know if there's anything concrete there. Something that is very interesting along those lines, though. You guys know about dairy fat?
Yep.
Do you know where I'm going with this? What's milk look like?
Milk is white. Basically, when you take it out, and when you like get the skim milk, it turns into almost basically kind of like
It's a real
water.
Talking about
Right.
taking away out.
Yeah.
So, sort of, along those lines. There's actually one other thing though. So, when you get milk at the grocery store, you look at that gallon, it's usually top to bottom white, right? And then if it's skim milk, it's kind of thin, you know, it's like a kind of little see-through white because it doesn't have the fats in there anymore, right? They've taken the fats out of that milk. Have you guys ever seen raw milk at a farm?
It's chunky.
Super chunky.
Yellow.
Yeah.
Chunky, right? And what else about it? It's got levels to it, right?
Okay, let's see the
There's
cream-
levels to
the
that
cream
shit,
cell, though.
alright?
So is
Now,
that
that's
that
raw
H
milk.
word that they use when it comes to milks?
Yes, homogenized. Homogenized. Anyone know what that process is? No pressure.
Makes them milk, right?
Okay, very, very, yeah, so homogenized, so if you think about the word itself, homo meaning the same, homogenized, they are trying to make it all the same, right? So you think about milk, and we look at it when it's raw, it's all separated, chunky layers, right? You're like, that's thin, that's thick, what am I supposed to drink? Mix it up first, or what? Spoon it up, that's milk, right? Homogenized milk is all white top to bottom, right? They take the fats and they actually squeeze them through this super fine mesh that actually breaks the fat molecules and damages these and squeeze so that they are broken down these tiny, tiny fat molecules so they get suspended in the milk. Interesting, right? Does that sound like what we're supposed to do with our food before we eat it though?
No.
Change it chemically through squeezing it through the zone? Like not, like probably not. I'm just gonna say probably not. I don't know for sure if there's, you know, like that's the worst
Well,
thing ever.
raw
but
milk you can store in a cupboard for months before it goes bad.
Raw milk does not spoil, right? You have regular milk that's homogenized. You leave it out of the fridge, and within probably a day, that's bad, right? You can't have that, right? Or if it's, you know, summertime, a few hours, it's gone, right? Raw milk, if you leave it out, if you don't refrigerate it, it turns to butter. It gets better. But it's an interesting thing, right? Because raw milk actually contains these enzymes that actually break the particles of milk down, which is why when you leave it for a while and you leave it out of the cold, these enzymes actually work, and they break the milk down, they break the fats down, they work it into butter, and then later cheese, right? And cheese, of course, actually goes through a fermentation process. Different cheeses have molds that actually come into play. Very interesting stuff, right? Not full fermentation. So anyway, we've got homogenized milk, which is weird. We got raw milk, which is natural and contains the right stuff. So really interesting thing with that, some people who have dairy intolerances, not necessarily lactose intolerance because you still have lactose in raw milk, but raw milk contains lactase enzyme, which breaks down lactose for the body, right? The homogenized milk, the pasteurized milk, it kills off a lot of these enzymes. Pasteurization is where they heat it to a certain degree. This kills certain things in the foods we're supposed to be eating. So there are a lot of things that are done in the foods we eat that change the way that we're able to utilize this stuff. Once again, I'm going down a rabbit hole. Let's stick to the fats, but that's something to
That's
think
like,
about.
they do that with honey too, they homogenize store-bought honey. And actually, raw honey that you buy from the farm is very good for you. There's a lot of things in it.
Excellent point. Raw
But
honey.
the other one, they homogenize, might as well be sugar and water.
Oh yeah. If you actually look at a lot of honey out there, before honey, there's like some kind of sugar as an ingredient. So it's actually mostly not honey. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
world we live in. World we live in. Now honey would be what kind of macronutrient?
Carbohydrate.
Carbohydrate. Honey is a carbohydrate. Very, very high sugar, no fat to it, and no protein to it really to speak of. So very, very simple sugar source. Simple sugars, or simple carbohydrates rather, are sugars. So back though to our fats. We got a few down so far. Frank, what to you? What kind of fat source do we want to talk about?
Meat.
Meat?
Meat.
Meat. I'm just kidding. Meat. They call me fat.
No, I couldn't possibly outrun you.
So meat. So another interesting one, right? We already had meat on another list. Once again, another source of protein and fat. So that happens quite a bit in nature, you'll find, because mussels, animals, things like that, like we have protein, we have fat to our bodies, and then different kind of plants out there contain these nutrients because they're there for things to feed on. Right? Everything's there for a reason. Couple more.
Olives.
Olives. Woo! And what do we get from olives?
Olive oil.
I thought it was I thought they were eggs and go with all the babies. That's not how olives work.
That's what that pit is.
Olive oil is what we get from olive. Olives not olive oil. They're not eggs. So olive oil, especially extra virgin olive oil, very, very good source of some very healthy fatty acids. Now that's something we'll go more into it in some other lecture, the different types of fats, different types of everything here. But that's something just to keep in mind that there are much healthier types of fat, and there are also much less healthy types of fat. So I'll tell you what, can you give me a less healthy type of fat for our last one? So how about McDonald's? Anyone know what they make what they fry their foods in? Or most fast foods?
Isn't it lard?
Generally no, actually lard, believe it or not, is healthier than most of the fast food.
Like, really
Yes,
expensive.
because, so ironically, lard, especially if it's actually from like grass-fed animals, is actually gonna be high
This is
MCT.
Five Guys, yeah, and
Five Guys.
Burger uses,
They don't use peanut
Um,
peanut's a better oil, at least I know.
So here's the thing though, so peanut oil or any of these vegetable oils, a lot of times they will, not actually positive, but the main thing I was going for is hydrogenated, right? So what happens with a lot of these fats, they are hydrogenated. Now you guys have probably seen that term or heard that term. What that means is they take a good vegetable fat, generally vegetable source fat, and vegetable source fats a lot of times are what we call unsaturated. So they are liquid at room temperature, like olive oil, peanut oil, canola oil, things like that, sesame oil, right? Liquid at room temperature because these fats have missing hydrogens along the link, okay, along the chain. Now that's going a little more into it than we need to, but it's important to know that they're missing a hydrogen, okay? Missing that hydrogen makes it into a broken, or like a bent fatty acid chain, which means these bent fatty acids don't fit together smoothly. Since they're spread apart, since they're not packing together real tight, they stay as a liquid at room temperature because they're loosely put together. That makes sense? Liquid's loose. Saturated fat means it is fully saturated with hydrogens, right? You got C, all the carbons, and then hydrogens along the outside. Well, when you have all the hydrogens full, that's a saturated fat. That makes sense? You guys understand that term? So that's what you'll see on the label too, saturated fat. And when a fat is saturated and it has all those hydrogens, it's a nice straight line. Now if you have a bunch of straight lines, they can pack together one on top of another, right? So saturated fats can pack together really tightly, which makes them what at room temperature? Any ideas? Solids. Coconut oil, very high in saturated fats, solid room temperature. Meats, generally very high in saturated fats. That marbling, solid at room temperature, right? Saturated fats are generally solid room temperature. What we have though are back to what I was talking about here, the hydrogenated fats. I'm just gonna put that on here. hydrogenated fatty acids. Right down there, hydrogenated. I'm going to quiz you all on the spelling of that in about 5 minutes. So, hydrogenated means they take that broken chain, healthy fat, that unsaturated fat, they bubble a bunch of hydrogen through it with heat, and that hydrogen is moving so fast, and these fats are spinning around so fast with all this heat, and that's what heat does to molecules. It makes them move, makes them jitter, makes them jump around, that the hydrogen leaps into that place and upsets this molecule and forces it into this straight formation when it wasn't supposed to be. So now you have this kind of like weirdly straight fat, because that hydrogen doesn't belong there, and they all know it, but it's in there anyway, right? It doesn't belong there. It can't stay with us. She can't stay with us. Can you
Not a natural element.
So, not natural, exactly. So what happens is you have these hydrogenated oils, which are solid now at room temperature. So who can tell me something that replaced an animal fat product that was solid room temperature that everyone used, that everyone thought was going to be better, that was made from vegetable oils, but it was now solid room temperature? People use this. Yeah. Say it a little louder. Margarine. Margarine. Prime example. So butter from dairy, from cows, from milk, right? Take it, churn it, all good to go. Butter, when it's natural, when it's naturally sourced, when it's from whole milk, raw whole milk, has those enzymes to break it down correctly. Honestly, our bodies tend to be okay with butter. As long as you don't have an allergy to milk or an insensitivity to milk or a sensitivity rather to milk, you're okay usually with butter. But all this stuff came out about heart disease and cholesterol, and there was a lot of misinformation spread around, and everyone got really afraid of eating butter. Right? Now, to be fair, people were eating a lot of butter back then, so it's probably good to cut it down a little bit, but they just replaced it with margarine. And margarine was all hydrogenated fats. So one little point there before we go into the last portion of this. One little point to point out. They took something that we looked at, and all this information came out that this is bad, right? And everyone hears it, they listen, and they follow. And then someone else comes along and says, hey, here's the replacement, this is good, I fixed it, I did something, right? And everyone follows and jumps on that. And suddenly, I remember when I was a kid, we had margarine in the fridge, right? That was supposed to be the healthier thing. It was made from vegetables. How could it not be? Well, once we get our dirty hands on something, humans tend to mess things up a little bit. So, main kind of point here, we've got some real good natural occurring things. Naturally occurring foods are generally going to be utilized a little better by the body. The less processing that something has had, generally, they're going to be utilized a little better by the body. Our body recognizes it a little more easily, right? We already have the enzymes in place, and our pancreas are coming in with the food itself to break it down. So a little more natural is usually a little better.
Anything processed, you can't, all bets are off on what you're eating.
It's tough. It's tough when you have the human element involved. It comes down to trust, really. Do you trust whoever made that, whatever you're eating? Maybe, maybe not. So, all right. To jump though, what I want to do here is a couple of quick macro breakdowns to show you guys how this all plays into what we do on a daily basis. Okay? So who can tell me one of those foods that we were talking about before? Chicken. Chicken. So we've got a high protein food. So we're going to go blue. And Dan,
Yes.
if you can pull up tabs of 100-gram quantities of things while we list them,
I think I can do that.
that would be amazing. All right, how about another food? Preferably a different primary macronutrient.
Brussels sprouts?
Brussels sprouts, I love that. Excellent. So Brussels sprouts, oh, what kind of food do we think those are?
That's a carb.
That's a carb, beautiful. You saw the market.
No, I already know that.
You
I already
knew
knew that.
It's
Brussels
a good thing I don't eat those.
sprouts.
I'm with you.
Brussels sprouts are delicious.
I actually cut off the ends and then turn it into salads, and that way you don't get like that weird like steam smell, and it tastes a lot better.
Oh, and I do it in the oven, a little olive oil, salt, and pepper.
That's good too.
Oh, yeah. All right, what else we got? Another food, another food, another food.
Avocado.
Avocado, love it. Get a good fat source on here. Let's do one more.
How about a container of yogurt? Could that be on there?
I love that.
Something more.
Wow, that's a great one actually. That's a really great one. I like that. So yogurt, what do we think? What kind of what kind?
I feel like it varies depending on the type too.
I
Yeah.
would kind of say so too,
Yeah,
right?
because I'd say it would be
It's a little
like,
tough, it's a little
I'd
tough.
I'd say it would be kind of
Coconut
like,
doesn't have the
yeah,
protein.
I'd say it would be kind of like in between like a protein and,
It's kind of a combo, right?
yeah.
Now, what I'm gonna say, just for ease of using one marker, we'll put it as a protein source. Because generally when people are looking at yogurt, they're looking at it as a dairy, and dairy is generally classed as protein. But as everyone is kind of discussing here, yogurt is gonna be a very high carbohydrate food, right? Especially if we've got fruit mixed in, if we've got things like that, we're adding a lot of carbs. So we will do a blue marker for the yogurt here, right? Then how are we looking with 100 gram quantity readouts?
You ready for chicken?
I am ready for chicken.
Your
So
battery's about to
chicken,
die.
per 100 grams, how much protein, carbs, and fat do we have?
For protein, you were looking at 2.95. Are you talking about 100 grams or 10 grams?
29.5?
29.5 for 100 grams,
You got
yep.
it. Beautiful.
Carbs, 0.0.0.0. No carbs in chicken.
Ooh, low carb chicken.
Fat, we've got 7.72 grams.
Ooh, that's a fat chicken.
And that is a chicken breast, by the way.
So chicken breast, 29.5 grams of protein and 7.7 grams of fat per 100 grams of weighed chicken breast. So what that means, for anyone here who has not weighed their food before, who has not kind of broken down the macronutrients before in this way. Think about chicken, right? You're about to eat a piece of chicken, and if you're following a diet, you're following a macronutrient plan, you gotta figure out how much protein's in there, how many carbohydrates are in there, how many grams of fat are in there, so you can fit it into your meal plan. So you need to weigh how much total food am I having, right? So this is per 100 grams. So you weigh 100 grams of chicken on your scale. It contains about 30 grams of protein and just under 8 grams of fat, right? So that's about 37, 38 grams. What do we think makes up that remaining 61, 62, 63, 62-ish grams of stuff, of chicken?
Water.
Water. Excellent. So water is going to make up most of the weight in a lot of what we eat, right? Now obviously that's not going to play true for things like chips or dry carbohydrates or something like that. Same goes for fats actually, although they do contain some, like the water will be, like the liquid in there does need weighed down. But that is excellent, excellent. So, great point there. And something to remember, when you go to weigh your food, when you're trying to track macros, just because chicken's a protein doesn't mean that when you need 30 grams of protein, you want 30 grams of chicken, right? We need enough chicken to yield 30 grams of protein, which as we can see here, is about 100 grams. Everyone with me? Making sense? I love it when it makes sense. What do we got for our Brussels sprouts?
Brussels sprouts, protein, you're looking at 3.38 grams. Carbs, 8.95.
8.95?
Yep.
Beautiful.
And fat is 0.3.
0.3 grams of fat.
Too bad I don't like those.
Ooh. So what do we think about Brussels sprouts? Per 100 grams, we actually only have, let's see, 9, 12, We have 13 grams of macronutrients in 100 grams of Brussels sprouts. Right?
So are there other green vegetables that are obviously, that are gonna have more per 100 grams? Like
Yes.
broccoli, is that any different?
Broccoli would be fairly similar, Something like peas, for instance, though, are more starchy. Peas are gonna have a lot more calories, a lot more carbohydrates, right?
Asparagus.
What was that?
Asparagus.
Asparagus is gonna be fairly on the low side. Asparagus will probably come out similar
Oh,
around
really?
here. Yeah. No, it does have a little bit of carbohydrates, but Brussels sprouts do as well. I'd assume around the same.
I feel like if it wasn't like a vegetable and you picked more of like something denser like bread,
Yes.
it would be much higher.
100%. We actually, one of the things that I utilize with my clients is I have a whole macronutrient list, and you can see the difference as you look down the list. Some things are gonna have 30 plus grams per 100 grams. Other things have 3, And it's all just about the density of the macronutrients in that food. What do we got for our avocado?
Avocado, looking at 2 grams of protein.
Ooh, on the dot?
Yep.
Oh, it's behaving.
8.53 grams of carbs. And 14.66 grams for fat.
Awesome. So, and as we can see, our avocado being a fat source, we have high fat, but we do still have a good amount of carbs there, right? So, like we were saying about the yogurt that we're getting down to next, we have many foods. You know, even if you look at the Brussels sprouts, we actually have more than 1/3 of the amount of carbohydrates as protein. So really, that's a pretty good mix between protein and carbohydrates too. So if you were a vegetarian, you can get some protein in. Wouldn't be a bad option for a few grams here and there. But as you can see, like we were saying, it is a mainly carbohydrate food. The point here, though, that we're looking at, and we're gonna get this last one on here, is that we have a lot of foods that have a mix of the different macronutrients. So balancing those and figuring out how to put them together to get the right mix of macronutrients for your body, for whatever you're trying to do or whatever goal you're trying to reach. That's the overall goal at the end of the day. So our last and final one, our yogurt.
Yogurt, and this is plain yogurt, not Greek yogurt, none of
This
that,
is-
just plain yogurt.
Plain yogurt. Yep.
5.25 grams protein. 7.04 grams carbs. And 1.55 grams fat.
Can you do me a favor real quick?
Look up Greek yogurt.
No, actually, can you look up Danimals?
Oh, all right.
So, you guys remember Danimals? That's the first one that came to mind. Go-Gurt could be another option if you want to try that out. The reason I'm doing this, and we could look up, Yoplait fruit on the bottom. You guys like that one? As a kid, I used to actually eat through the whole top part, even though it was nasty, and I'd eat the fruit plain because there was just so much sugar. You guys ever do that? I felt like a minor. It's cool. The reason I bring that up, different types are going to have very, very different values, right? Do we have that one pulled up?
So since it's a brand label, they're doing it by just
Flavor.
individual containers. Let me look up just Dannon yogurt.
So one of the things that we'll definitely see is a much higher sugar content, right? In one of the fruitier yogurts.
Yeah.
And even, now a lot of people are going for Greek yogurt these days, right? Greek yogurt is a different process it goes through. You're not yielding as much sugar out of the yogurt itself. But if you're doing like the Chobani flips or something, when you're pouring the honey and granola all in there, or like the dark chocolate chunks and whatever they got, almond, something or other, you gotta remember that we're adding a lot of carbohydrates, we're adding a lot of fats. When you have those fruits, you have those sweets, or whatever you're adding in there, those all still count. It's not just a protein source anymore, right? Anything cool out there?
It's not cooperating with me.
So what I'm gonna do here, let's think about it this way. If we have, instead of our plain yogurt, let's say that in this yogurt we have, it contains some blueberries, which is one of my favorites. There's some blueberries, and the blueberries are always mixed in that kind of like syrupy stuff down the bottom, right?
Sugar.
Right, yes, high fructose corn syrup usually, and a little bit of blueberry. So, when we add a little high fructose corn syrup or blueberry, we add no protein to it whatsoever. So still 5.25 grams or so, give or take. But I would say the carbs per 100 grams, I'm gonna say like,
I mean, 1 4-ounce container is 16 grams of carbs.
that, I was literally just gonna say right around 15. So 4 ounces and now it says 28 grams. So since that's right about the same. 15 grams, perfect.
And that's 12 grams of sugar.
Look at that, okay, so that actually is what I want to hear. So one of the things that I have my nutrition clients focus on in their macronutrient plans, despite the fact that sugar is included in your carbohydrates. And fat, by the way, was at, what, like 1.5? Just finish this off. Sorry, 1.5 again. Sugar in something that is a good, healthy, clean, low glycemic index, which means it doesn't spike your blood sugar really high, which means, again, it's gonna be healthier for the body, less inflammation, less fat storage, right? We're all on the same page there without spiking the blood sugar. If we wanna try to keep those low, we need to aim for things that don't have those sugars added in. Because naturally occurring foods generally do not have this crazy high percentage of sugar. Unless it's fruits or unless it's honey or something like that. But those type of things we only have here and there, we only have in small amounts. Realistically, most of the carbohydrates you're taking in, you want to have things like your Brussels sprouts, which is 8.95 grams of carbohydrates, which is a lot of fiber, right? It's a good amount of good, rich, complex carbohydrates, or good starches, sweet potatoes, squash, or things like that, like where you're getting a lot of good, complex carbs, some good fiber, but not this huge sugar spike. Once they add that sugar in, you get 12 out of 15 grams of carbohydrates is sugar. I aim for less than 20%. So less than 20% of 15 grams, that'd be less than 3 grams. And this is 4 times that. So this is a very high sugar, very high carbohydrate food. This yogurt is no longer a good protein source. Even though the plain yogurt was already a little higher carb than most protein, now we are blowing it away where we have literally more than double the amount in sugar as we even do in protein. And that's one that I hear a lot. I hear a lot of people say, oh, well, I eat real healthy. I try to get some good protein in. I have a yogurt with breakfast. And it turns out that yogurt's the fruity, whatever. You see what I'm saying? None of this is ever to be judgmental toward what someone chooses to do with their diet or to come down on anyone for the way that they're eating. I want to try to share this information so that everyone hearing can apply this, can take this, and hopefully better themselves. Let me hear some questions. Or did I nail it? I covered everything.
We're talking about protein. Does protein, can you convert that into calories? So many grams equals so many calories. So if you just,
Yes.
or you don't count calories in this.
So you know what's so funny? I completely missed one statement that I was supposed to say right in the beginning, and I noticed it a minute ago, and then I forgot about that again. I didn't touch on the calories per gram. I apologize. And that's one of the most important things here. Protein, carbohydrates, and fats, they are our calorie-containing macronutrients, as I made you all repeat. The very next thing we were supposed to repeat was how many they each have. How many calories per every 1 gram of protein? Does anyone know?
9, 10.
Oh, we're kind of close, but that's actually a different macronutrient we're talking about. So protein has 4. 4 calories per gram. 4 kcal over kilocalories per gram, right? How about carbohydrates? Anyone know?
I feel like that's higher.
Yeah,
Most people feel like it's higher, but ironically,
is it like?
Also
2?
4.
also 4.
Ah,
Also 4
that's my life the other way.
per gram. So protein and carbohydrates both have 4 calories per gram. What do we think about fats? 1. Ooh, I got a thumbs up and a
Oh yeah,
from
that
the
must
back
be a
here. What
lot
do
of
you think is
calories. I'm familiar
I
with
think
that.
so, I think so. I think it might be like,
10.
what do you think, 2 1/4 times the amount of calories that protein and carbohydrates contain?
It could probably be like maybe
Yeah.
8.
Say 2
Frank
1/4
says, yeah,
sounds
2
like
and
it's
a quarter
right on
times the
point.
amount sounds like about the right amount.
Was that why your fats, like your grams of fat for your macro, like your personal macro diet would be, it's the lowest of the three?
Well, so that depends on your macronutrient
Okay.
layout. Because if you're doing a
Depends on your consuming
ketogenic diet, for instance, fats are actually gonna be the highest.
Okay.
Well, depending on your body type and your size and everything. But, very, very good point. And yes, fats do have 2.25 times the calories of carbohydrates or protein. So fat has 9 calories per gram. Little side note here, alcohol has 7 calories per gram.
I was wondering if you were going to touch on that one.
Of course.
That's why I love having Dan around. So, yeah, little tiny side note there, alcohol is actually the final calorie-containing nutrient. There's other ones that have like teeny bits, but we're not gonna worry about those. But alcohol has 7 calories per gram. So those of you who are going out on the weekends, you'll have a little bit of fun. Remember that that has almost as much calories as pure fat. I'm not against drinking, have fun. But 9 calories per gram in fat, right? You guys ever notice that when you eat something that's real greasy, you get full really fast? This is why. Because it's a more nutrient-dense food. Right? Fats fill you up very quickly because your body has been trained, like, you know, anatomically, to recognize the fact that it just got a high amount of calories. We don't need more food right now. Okay, we're set. We had 3 spoonfuls of peanut butter. I'm just kidding. It's 3 jarfuls before I'm full. But yes, that is a very, very, very good point. The calories contained per gram of macronutrients is a very important thing to be cognizant of, right? So if you're taking in 2,000 calories per day, how are you gonna break that down? How are we gonna figure out how many protein grams to get that from, how many carbohydrate grams, how many fat grams, right?
Right.
It's a little bit of a tough thing to do sometimes. Finding the right balance for yourself, trial and error is a great way to go. You know, try a good balance or ask a professional, get a good viewpoint of where you might be able to start and see how your body feels, see how you respond.
So every day, what you're really doing is plotting that day in 3 different curves. You know, fat, carbs, protein that day.
Yes,
And you want to have a level across here, and you just try to maintain that level up and down. Is that the idea?
So that
Because
is,
it's going to be constantly different, right?
So there are several ways. Great question. There are several ways that you can try to utilize this information to make your diet work better for you, right? When I'm working with competitors, when we're writing out a diet, the way that we usually break it down is each meal has a certain number of grams of protein, a certain number of grams of carbohydrates, and a certain number of grams of fat. Those meals, depending on the client and depending on the day, are generally different depending on the time of day. Because right before or after your workout, what do you think we need more of?
More protein.
Protein, absolutely, to recover from your workout. What else?
Carbs.
Carbs for the energy, right? Because fats are very slow digesting. Despite the fact they have 9 calories per gram, it takes longer to get those calories. Fats have to be converted in the body.
That's why you have to burn a lot of carbs before you burn fat.
Very, very good. Yeah, because your carbohydrates are readily accessible energy. All right, carbohydrates, like we talked about, what are they broken down into? Sugars. And what does our body burn for energy?
Sure.
Sugars. What does our body burn for energy when we are in ketogenesis?
Ketones.
Ketones. Thank you, Dan. That was a little trick question for you. So, but to keep it on the topic here, yes, our body generally, aside from being in ketosis, will burn glycogen or glucose for energy. So our first source of energy, anytime, any day, anywhere, carbohydrates, right? So whatever you do, whether you're hopping on the treadmill, you gotta burn your carbs off first. If you're hopping to the bench, you gotta burn your carbs off, right? Now, creatine phosphate also comes in there, you know, high exertion force. But yeah, carbohydrates are your fast, easily accessible energy, right? Fats.
I got a quick bridge that I want to make off that based off
Yes.
a conversation we had this morning about talking about doing cardio at the end of your workout. So if you've depleted all the glycogen in your muscles, you burn through all those carb stores, you do your steady state cardio, and you'll start to utilize more fat.
Great way to go.
I like
Now,
it.
And there are a few different schools of thought on that, for sure. There are some people who go different directions, but that's actually my personal preference. So what Dan was saying is when you are utilizing energy during your workout, which we're doing the whole time, of course, while we're exercising, while we are doing our resistance training, I should say, ideally, we want to be utilizing carbohydrates. Because carbohydrates give us a good burst of energy, right? It's fast energy, and it's utilized mainly by our fast twitch muscle fibers, which are our stronger, fast contraction, strong contraction, right? When you're lifting weights, that's what we're using. Carbs and fast twitch muscle fibers. When we finish our resistance training, we burn through our carbohydrate stores ideally, right? So we burn and burn and burn, and you've taken some rest between sets, your heart rate comes back down, and you go back into some anaerobic contraction, burning off carbohydrates and creatine phosphate. And then we burned off all of our carbs, we can go and do our steady state cardio after your workout. When our carbohydrate and glycogen has depleted out, we now can shift right into fat utilization during our aerobic workout on the cardio.
What do you mean by steady state cardio?
So steady state cardio, as opposed to high intensity interval training, steady state is usually just you kind of pick a speed and stay at it. Yeah. Great question. Great. Sorry, I get used to the terminology that we all use pretty regularly, and sometimes I forget to go a little deeper in it. But great.
Remember,
question.
some of us are plebeians.
You're muggles. All right. Any other questions? We all
Actually,
feel
I
great?
got a quick one I want to throw in. I mean, I already know the answer to this, but I love this one because you see it a lot. You see somebody in the gym immediately after finishing a really hard workout, they grab a handful of gummy bears.
So I don't know if you actually saw just recently, there was actually a very highly regarded doctor in the field who published an actual article supporting gummy bears as an excellent source of post-workout glycogen management. Is he right?
Technically, fast digesting carbohydrates after your workout will get glycogen to your muscles very quickly. So realistically, actually, gummy bears after your workout, you can get away with it. Don't go overboard, but getting some simple sugars in after your workout is actually what your body really wants. You guys ever have that craving for something sweet after you do a really heavy workout?
So having chocolate milk is okay after.
Chocolate milk is actually considered as one of the, as a really great balance of carbohydrates to protein, and it has your whey protein and casein protein. So if you are okay with milk, if your body digests milk fine, if you don't have a sensitivity, chocolate milk can actually be a very good post-workout source. Now, that depends on your goals though, right? If your goals are strictly losing body fat, we don't want to be taking in a bunch of sugar after our workout, because taking in sugar releases insulin, replenishes glycogen, all good things, but it stops body fat utilization in its tracks, right? So if we're trying to lose body fat, having your post-workout immediate sugars might not be the best thing. Despite it recovering the glycogen in your muscles very quickly, it might not.
Slow down the calorie burn. That could last for a half hour after an hour after the
Yes,
workout.
great point. Yeah, your calorie
Couple
burn, your
of
utilization of fatty acids for energy can last for 20 minutes to an hour after your workout. And actually, with things like high-intensity interval training and resistance training, you can actually have increases in your metabolism for 48 hours post-workout that are just changing the way your body's utilizing these nutrients, right?
You set your body into EPOC, right?
There we go. You know what that is?
Epoch now.
Yeah.
So EPOC essentially is where your body is consuming more oxygen than you're taking in, so you're creating a energy debt internally that your body then has to repay.
And what would lead to that?
High intensity interval training will typically put you into that EPOC state. It's when you're really trying to draw that air in because, again, you're creating a deficit that you're now trying to balance.
Right, you kind of vapor lock. What happens to get out of it? It's just too
Just time.
time.
Yeah, over time your body's going to utilize the nutrients in a higher
Now, is there any benefit to that, like cardiovascular endurance or anything like that?
Well, I'd say, you know, you're working at that high octane. You know, your heart muscle is going to get stronger. Your blood vessels are going to be more pliable because of how much blood they're pumping through them. Then of course you get that extra burn state
Those are
for
positive results on
hours
metabolism
after you're
also.
done working out.
Yeah,
It's
so-
something that's beneficial.
Exactly. What Dan's referring to isn't I know it sounds like a condition or something, but no, this is it's what you're putting your body into with high intensity interval training, where your body needs to replenish faster than it can while you're working out. So after your workout, your body continues trying to replenish, so to speak. To put it simply. Good stuff.
Right, high level stuff.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Quality of this information today.
High quality info.
I got one
All we
last
do.
little question.
Final question, let's do it.
So what about, they talk about this window, this time period after your workout where you should be getting protein into, like I hear about people, like I have to get my protein shake in that 20 minutes after my workout. Is this back to like glycogen or?
Very, very.
Because I guess
very
maybe
good
it just
question.
depends on your goals. If you're trying to wait till after that
Absolutely.
20, 30 minute period. I don't know.
So, great question. And so the question was, after your workout, a lot of, there's been a lot of talk, let's say, in the past, and there have been a lot of people claiming that there's the anabolic window after your workout, and that window is usually anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes that people claim that you need to get your post-workout nutrition into your body within this time frame, right? Right after your workout. Otherwise, you are wasting all sorts of capacity for growth and recovery and everything, right? Your body does indeed utilize nutrients in a very productive way after a heavy workout, after an intense exercise session. So after a workout, you do have a period of time that you can hyperutilize some nutrients. You can pack in some more food right after your workout and usually absorb more of it in your muscles, so you can actually hyperload your muscles slightly, so your glycogen levels, your muscle energy storage is a little higher than you can usually get it otherwise. So if you were to eat the same amount of food over a long period versus eating right after your workout, and it's all now, as long as that food is all digested properly and utilized correctly in the body, your body can then take that all into your muscle cells and replenish glycogen more effectively and actually increase glycogen stores. That food being digested perfectly right after your workout isn't always the case. You know, some people, they do a whey protein shake, think it's gonna digest really quick for them. Well, if you have a whey protein insensitivity, you're not even utilizing that protein, you're not breaking it down. So there's a little catch-22 there that I've seen quite a bit, especially with dairy sensitivity, or dairy sensitivities rather, because a lot of people aim for specifically that type of post-workout nutrition. To put it really simply, there is benefit to replenishing your body right after a workout. And the sooner you do, up to a certain point, I'd say wait a good 10 minutes, let your blood flow kind of re-regulate, because while you're working out, your blood's diverted away from your digestive tract, so you want to let the blood kind of get back in there, so everything's working. But yeah, within about 10 to 30 minutes, you do have a pretty good little window there where you can get a little extra. It's not the end of the world if you miss it. I usually do not eat right after my workout. I usually wait about an hour or so. My body feels a little better at that point. I can get a better meal in at that point. I like the feeling of after my workout, kind of letting my body kind of gradually shift back into a parasympathetic state. That's kind of the recovery state. If I try to slam a meal in real quick, if I'm eating as fast as I can, I found that I was just more stressed. I was like, running around trying to shut people up because I had to eat too fast, So anyway, it's not what people have made it out to be, but there's some good benefit there. Yeah. And like you said, definitely depends on goals. Great question.
Can I build a little bit off that?
Of course.
So I believe I had read quite a few studies. I think about 5 years ago is when this was starting to kind of come out. And there is an anabolic window, but that 30 to 60 window is more like 3 to 6 hours.
I have not actually looked as much into that, so that's very, very interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, it definitely, like everything that you just said, but I believe that window is a little bit larger than what was previously held as dogma.
Now, a little interesting point on that, and then I do have to end it with this, just so that we are not running too long after. But dude, I can't tell you guys how much I appreciate all the questions and the involvement. This has really been great. So the last little thing I'm going to touch on here is there's a lot of information kind of shot out there of things that you need to do. Like you need to have your 100 grams of carbs before, or you need to have your peri-workout nutrition, which is your intra-workout, like drink carbs and amino acids while we're lifting and everything. All these things that are touted as need to do, you don't need to do. You know, there's a lot of different ways to achieve our goals. What we need to do, we need to find what works with our lives, with our lifestyles. And that's where this comes in, really. I know starting off here, if you're not used to it, it can seem like a lot of numbers and information and stuff, but as you go and as we continue on with this, I really want to show people that you can go through your life just like you do every day, maybe make a few little tweaks to the choices that you make throughout the day, but then your results can just absolutely increase by multitudes just by making those tiny changes, because you can see already the difference between different foods, the difference in how they're going to act in the body. So why wouldn't we take advantage of that when we're already in here and you're already at home working as hard as we are?
It wouldn't be the first time, brother.
So,
See ya.
thank you everybody. Really appreciate everyone coming here. I really appreciate everyone at home listening in. Any questions you have, you can email me at scottymac@allaccessfa.com. Any of our staff can always help out. Come down, see us here at 904 Boston Turnpike in Shrewsbury, Mass. And thank you everybody. Really appreciate you all coming down.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.